All right, here we go again. Buckle up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain that a little bit. So when I initially started this phase of the algorithm observation and inspection, what happened is you can go down a pornography feed and then be confronted with depictions of minor children, whether they be sexual or not, which should not be happening. So it's kind of twofold. One, we don't want the content to stray into the accounts and view of minor children, but we don't want minor children and depictions of minor children to stray into pornography. And that's social media pornography, which is pretty much, I think, only X, is different than other pornography in that it does have that varied presentation. On a porn site, there's no reason for that to happen. Right? It's not going to happen because it's all just pornography and it's supposed to be only adult pornography. Right. So when that happens, then it's an automatic no-go. So on social media, you have just neutral content, especially when you go down like the trans stuff. Right. If you go down to trans stuff, you have just neutral media mixed in with pornography. But again, it's almost completely eradicated. They've refined the algorithm so it's much more focused, and that's not really happening. Again, the question is whether any of it was intentional or unintentional, or what was it. Right? But again, it appears that the algorithms are operating with an intention to have less strength. So, but there's also a question. So, one of the questions that came up, well, how about all that stuff about Elon's point of view? Well, that's there. Again, Elon owns X, and if he wants certain content promoted, it's going to be promoted. Right. So again, that is still there, a little bit of that, but that's not what I was looking at. That's that's kind of just a political preference kind of thing. But what I was looking at is where an adult is somehow in sex drive, and then all of a sudden they're introduced photos of children, and then how that might cross sexuality and cause an issue in sexualizing and maybe even unintentionally sexualizing an adult into minor child sexual pleasure. So, but they've done a great job. It's pretty much not fair. So let me think of anything else that was there. I don't think there was anything else. It's just, again, the idea is that political. If the algorithm is pushing a political point of view that of the owner of the algorithm, then that's kind of the way the world runs. Right? It does get to be a bit much. So I think he should tone it down. I think politically. He's doing more damage at this point. Again, not all of it. Again, I'm not telling you like you can't put your point of view on there and you can't. What I'm just saying is I think it's a little bit much. We're just getting so much. And maybe where I'm going online, I may be triggering the algorithm. I have to investigate that. Right. So that's the other thing. You have to analyze as to where you're triggering the algorithm or the algorithm's kind of triggering you. That when you investigate algorithms, that's what you look for. And again, sometimes it's unintentional. It's just, again, one of the ideas was that if I click on mass murderers, it's going to return with mass murderers. So, but that's not something we want. Okay, maybe one or two, but we don't want somebody radicalized into mass murder, infatuation by an algorithm. So there has to be this certain level of what's. I know free speech absolutists supposedly exist. I don't believe it, but there should be a limitation on what somebody is being put in front of them, because we don't want to. And it's happening. I mean, psychology is being harmed, and this is a very big project in reality that I am embarked on. And we need to make sure that it does what everything does what it's supposed to do without causing harm. So there's nothing wrong with me clicking on an algorithm and something coming back based upon the content that I clicked on. But the question is, what's coming back? How much is coming back? You know, what could it harm? Sexuality is not as bad as violence, and violent sexuality is probably, you know, worse than either by itself, right? So, no, it's definitely improved. Again, you can't. It's a strange world, and it's very, you know, it's the ex-social media strata of available content is pretty broad, and you don't get that, you know, like in Facebook. You don't get that even in a porn site. A porn site has a strict set of things that it presents, whereas X, it can present a porn site type stuff, but it could also present everyday mundane things, and when that crosses at the wrong time, that could cause an issue. But again, they've done a great job at focusing the algorithms. Let me see what it's like outside. It's really cold and it's like dreary, but this is like the day before the melt, I think. This is the day before the melt. Boy, it's chilly out here. But it's not too bad. The weather's not too bad. It's just cold, remnants of the snow. I try to come out and just get some sun real quick and then go back in if the sun's out. It's really healthy to get sun. I used to do sun tanning in the winter. I mean, it really does pick your mood up and keep you healthy. So I had some really strange things going on last night when I tried to sleep. Eventually I did fall asleep, but I had to readjust myself. It was just so bizarre, and I think I just made it too warm in here. I'm still in the energizing phase, trying to come out of COVID and get back to the normal feel, the normal life. So I think tomorrow and the next day will be nice for doing that, because it will be melting the snow and all of that. Well, I think trans people have a right to their world. The problem is, and I've said this for years, is whether it's trans people or church people, when they begin to impose I wouldn't say impose their world, because again, there's a certain level of acceptance of somebody else's world that we're all really required to settle into, right? But again, when they push too much, that's what causes the issue. And I'm not speaking about an algorithm, intentional suppression of others, and promotion of one's own lifestyle. And that's really, again, politically, it makes money, it makes votes. So some people kind of like it, but at a certain point, that's where the issue is. Well, I think it's been proven. Again, I warn Christians and I warn law enforcement about this. They don't try to put it on someone else all the time, because then it comes back and gets us. Right. So I think there is a definite proof that there are more sex offenders in law enforcement and religion than probably the trans world, because they're more careful. Actually, they're more afraid of having that put on them. So I think, and I think there is a protection there, believe it or not. Right. I mean, there is a seedy side of it where that happens, but I think when it comes to pedophilia and child sex, they do a pretty good job of sorting that out. However, again, I did highlight the fact that kids need their space to grow up. And if they have a hormonal fluctuation when they're 14 or 13, they shouldn't be stuck as a trans person for the rest of their life. Right. Hormonal fluctuations are known. People don't talk about them because, it's kind of like a weird thing. Your kid's actually trans. So back in the day it would happen, but nobody called the kid trans. They just knew it was like an adolescent hormonal fluctuation. Agreed theory. I really do believe the planet's ending. I don't believe we have much more than 100 years of normal living. Again, it's based upon a lot of stuff. Okay, there's a way that my life tracked, and it's a way that their abuse tracked, right? And it's kind of coming out everywhere, right? And it's coming out in the housing. And it's not only my life. They want me to be homeless. They really do. And so now a bunch of them are homeless. Again, just learn from it and change. That's all you have to do. You don't have to fight it. 100%, Mary. Now, I don't know who these people are, but I'm sure there's federal agents involved. You need to get a handle on them. You need to get these spies controlled. You need to get those CIA-type toolkits. That's what Kash Patel has to do. He has to find these people that have these CIA-type toolkits that are hacking into the lives of U.S. citizens and destroying their lives. So it is what it is. And like I said, it appears X has really done a great job modifying and tweaking the algorithms. And like I said, the only thing is you get a lot of that Elon point of view. But I haven't found, I really did prefer Twitter. It's not because it was liberal, and maybe it's the content that I'm just not as settled with. It just seemed like your space, like MySpace type of thing. You had your space. It seems like X, we don't have as much of neutral space any longer. And again, it could be just a shift in people that left Twitter or X, and we don't have as much variety as we once did. Correct. And I'm not telling you that I go to Blue Sky and I find it. I'm not telling you that I go to Facebook and I find it. I find social media kind of a little distasteful these days. It's just not. Or I won't say distasteful. It's just not as easy. Social media just isn't as easy. It just seemed like it was easier back in the day. With social media, I thought it was a mouse. I kicked something across the floor. I thought, oh, another mouse. Yeah, for me, mice, it's a part of the planet that I hate. I don't want anything to die. I don't want anything to be killed. I know. Look, I'm a prophet. I have to do my prophet thing every so often. I have to yell at Elon. I have to yell at Vivek. Right. But again, that was also a workup to see if they would be vindictively manipulating the algorithm to try to force me into something. Or make me afraid of something, or there's a lot of things you can do damage to a person's psychology with algorithms. Yeah, he did lock me out. He said, "Yeah, next time don't say anything like that, or we'll lock you out again." Just give me my money. You do owe me money. That part's real. Right. Everybody owes me money. Get me some money. It's not hard. I mean, come on, you give me $1 million, not even think twice about it. Right? And God will bless everyone. 100%. Oh. Thank you much. No, I have to play the part. I have to yell at Elon and make fun of him. I can't wait till it melts tomorrow. This is like, all right. I guess I have to make my chai here soon. No, it was weird. I laid down, and I think I had like an allergy attack. I couldn't tell what it is. I had this gas coming up from my stomach, and I was just like totally out there. It wasn't like COVID thing. It was just weird. I think it was like an allergy attack. Right. I had purchased some, back when they were doing a lot of hacking and weird stuff around my purchases, I had purchased Allegra, and then the order never came through. So I'm going to have to probably do that. Yeah, I think that, again, the Secretary of Defense, you have a lot of people that work for you. You really have a lot of responsibility. I think, I think Hegseth is and I know it sounds weird because he said some things, but he does have a kind of an emotional side to him, and I think that he's just he ran with it. And again, he's when you when you're in those other jobs, you're not necessarily thinking about Secretary of Defense, right, and what your responsibilities are as Secretary of Defense. So I think it has value if he applies it across the board in the right manner, where people will feel represented by him. Again, I don't know where they're going to go with transgender. I don't think it's going to be as easy a fight this time as far as banning transgenders from the military. I'm not sure if you're going in that direction or not, because it's become women whimsy. Right? You say you're Republican, they say they're Democrat, but the court looks at it as the government. It's a continuity, right? So it's women. The government's going women. So every time somebody gets elected, they're in, they're out, they're in, they're out. Again. So the answer may not even be creating a law or something like that, right? Because again, at this point, it's already tainted. Now, there can be requirements within that. Again, the idea is we don't want it to affect the service member in a detrimental way, which means there's certain ailments that you can't serve with, or disabilities, and you get disability out of the military, that kind of thing. So if they have the ability to serve, the court may honor that at this point. Right? Again, if they say, "Hey, look, I'm not going to kill myself if I have to detransition by force," because by the nature of war, you could be forced to detransition, as far as not receiving hormones and that kind of thing. Right? That's where I was. I was like, well, we have court cases that are saying that we have to provide hormones because of that psychological issue. And again, I'm being very honest. I'm not trying to speak ill of in my opinion, if you're trans, I would get a civilian government job. I just really would. Right? It's just a better place to be. And you're probably more protected than I was in government. I was a white male that they hated, so it's very difficult. Right? Again, part of the reason they hated me is I wasn't racist. I just had no clue in my mind that in Baltimore, Maryland, that racism existed in law enforcement at that level. I had no clue. I was clueless. My best move was probably when I moved to California. It's just, it wasn't expensive as it is now. I actually, I had a very simple lifestyle. I was living a spiritual lifestyle. I could have moved into a studio on Pacific Boulevard, I think Pacific Boulevard or something like that they called it. It's like $1,000. It was a little bit, back then it was, it's a high rent for a little studio, but, I could have afforded it, right? I mean, where I was living, I was paying $300 for a bed in a big room full of people, in a big house full of people. But I figured I needed to move on. Well, because a lot of things were coming up, drug use and stuff like that. And I just, marijuana is one thing, but, I was just getting worried that something else was being used, and there was allegations of some other stuff going on. And it was either move on or move to a studio and pay $1,000 a month. And maybe I should have did that. I don't know. Right? Should have gave it a little longer, maybe. I don't know. But I definitely was fitting in Santa Monica, Venice. That I definitely was a person for that community. When I would go to yoga, they would just look at me, so I have no idea what they were, where their mind was. Right? And there was definitely something going on in their mind, and they just didn't talk to me. They had the yoga musicians and all that. So I don't know, what was maybe tainted. I'm going to try to make some. So I made some tea last night too. So that's something I need to focus on here, and that made me feel better. Right. Well, this is really really in the way, this whole thing, because I started working through massage, and I need to get some corticosteroid. I don't think when I was screwed up like I've been that I ever healed without some sort of corticosteroid treatment. So again, that's, it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just sometimes it takes that to relax all the muscles and get the healing forward. It relaxes the muscle so it can heal. And then your muscles aren't as grabby, everything relaxes. Right. So I just don't know, what the outcome's going to be because it's been cramped up for so long. And that, they were definitely operating me with the hope that I'd never seek that type of healing again. Again, these people need to be identified and need to be watched the rest of their life. They have capabilities that nobody should have. Thank you, Larry. They've killed people, there's no doubt. They've sexualized people into sex crime, there's no doubt. Yeah, the other thing is I was using Ricola and I didn't have a problem, but I've had problems with Ricola before. I don't know if I swallowed too much of it and it affects my stomach, but it irritated my stomach possibly. So I don't know if that was it. But it was strange last night. I was just like, okay, this is kind of sucking in. I'm not going to be sleeping for a little while. I had to get my body back where it was when I laid down, so I could sleep. And I kind of wanted another hour or so of sleep today, but again, it's going to happen the way it's going to happen. Right. I'm waiting for my air purifier. It should be here tomorrow, I guess. It's in the area, I understand, today. One of my air purifiers went on the fritz, and it was just at the end of the warranty period, so I was happy to be able to get that. And that'll help me to air purify the phone. What I did is I bought another air purifier, and I took my air purifier and I threw it out because it was just, it was old and it beat up. And right, so I purchased it when I got here, but 2 years generally, because the thing with an air purifier, most of them, the ones I buy come apart pretty good, but I try to increase my humidity here. But the majority of air purifiers, they just get dirty after a certain period of time, and you just can't disassemble them and clean them. So again, if I were actually in the air purifier world, and Blue Air does do it close, their older models disassemble much easier. Now that they have more sensors in it, it's a little more tricky. So what they needed to do was change the length of one of the cables so that we can be disconnected real easy and then reconnected. But it should be beefier too, because it's like a real small cable, an internal cable. And if they make it with a nice heavier jack, where you can disconnect it and reconnect it, then it'll be easier to clean it out and wipe it down. Right? So I'm kind of short on air purification. Only simply because I have 2 rooms. I have actually I have more than 2 rooms, but the front 2 rooms, or 3 rooms actually, are one space, and then the bedroom's another space with the bathroom and the closet and all that. So that delineation makes it difficult to use one air purifier to purify the entire apartment. So I'm waiting on that to be delivered so I can start my front room air purification again. It's all dry in here right now. I'm trying to get it moist here. It's just something, again, it's probably a curse, but something like really boinked my environmental controls here. Right. Yeah, I think if I had known something about this area, I may not have come to it as far as sinuses and all that. I don't, again, when you're cursed, you miss your cues, right? So I missed some cues about this area, so I need to get some tea going here. I bought a bunch of fruit tea bags, and when I realized I was going to be inside for a while, I was trying to find the cup now. Well, I guess I could do a little bit of caffeine too. I could do I just do the chai. Or maybe not, I don't know, my stomach was kind of funny. Right. So again, you need to find these people and you need to restrict them. I don't care who they work for or what they tell you they do. They're very dangerous, and the reason that we have all this craziness going on. Yeah, I'm sure Trump wishes the craziness wouldn't have been there at this point. Again, they got them to buy into the craziness, and then, it just got to be too much. So I guess Elon says we're going to like what he does as far as trimming the budget. So again, there is a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse, so it's no big secret, right? So we need to stop the stalking. A lot of people with cloaking devices and toolkits, spycraft toolkits, and that's what we got going on. And we need to stop all that. We need to return to the world where people have a right to everything. Their peace of mind, I guess. Well, there's a lot of hope. I mean, we want these wars to end. Again, I don't know where Putin and the Russians are. I'm hoping that they can find an off ramp that's acceptable to them. Again, I'm not asking them to fall on their sword, and I'm not asking the Ukrainians to fall on their sword. But I think we didn't need to go down that road. Again, that's the problem. Is like I said initially, if you don't take the off ramp, there may not be another off ramp for a while. Like where is it and what is it? Well, we could have a massive peace initiative. I mean, I don't know, what Putin's interested in approaching. He could approach it from the standpoint that enough people have died and we're just going to do something and make it work. Again, it's up to him. He's the boss there. 100%. And that's why I spoke to him and I spoke to Lavrov as far as on social media. I don't know if they saw my stuff or not. I never know if that, if they see it. That's why I spoke to them, because that's, you're the bosses and you get to make the choices. And again, this is what I talk about when I talk about North Korea and I talk about all this place. I say, these are the bosses. You're not going to win that, the chances, I'm not going to say not, but the chances of winning that place or that location without the boss coming along, Maduro, is minimal. This is not like 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. I mean, the world is much more digitally driven, and it's just not as easy to do what you're all trying to do. Right. I'm not big on these spy attacks over and over again. It empowers the spies, and that's about it. So again, negotiation, realization that maybe, again, Ukraine would need, if we're gonna say, hey, let's stop the locomotion, let's stop the train for a minute, right? If we're going to do that, everybody does it. We don't say, hey, Putin, it was your fault. We don't say, hey, Zelensky, it was your fault. Okay, we were in something. Again, this is the easiest way to do it. You'll see me do this all the time. Like I said, I'm not there to point fingers in California. I'm there to fix it. So what you do is, what we say is, hey, enough's enough. We don't even have to address it, because that's where the thing's going to go. Whose fault is it? Is it Putin's fault? Is it Zelensky's fault? Is it Biden's fault? Is it Trump's fault? That's where it's going to go. But what we say is, we don't care whose fault it is. It's just one of those things. One of those things happened. We're at a point in this thing that maybe we need to say enough's enough, and we just get forward of it. And we'll work over the coming years to get forward of it. Correct. Thank you, Larry. And that's probably the best way to do it, because the machine, that's what the machine's doing. Again, the machine could be Satan. Well, I think Russians had reason to be concerned about things. I believe Ukrainians had reasons to be concerned about things. I mean, I have reasons to be concerned about things, about everything. Again, give me the strength to help me change what I can change, and give me the strength to accept those things I can't change. So again, that's where we need to go with Ukraine and Russia. I think Trump can do wonderful things if he just tries to be a peacemaker. So instead of saying, okay, I'm Lord Trump, this is what they're building up, the Lord Trump AI, But so we want, we're going to come in and we say, look, enough's enough. I mean, it's just, we can say, look, enough's enough. Whatever happened, happened. Whoever did it, right? And enough's enough. And let's get forward to this. And I think your people feel that way. They're afraid to say something in both countries. Again, I'm not going to say that Ukraine isn't oppressive, and I brought that up at a certain point. Right? These are spy-driven communities. So I think we can do it if we just do that. Because if we keep looking for whose fault it is, we'll never get anywhere. Right? Because you're gonna just agree, essentially agree to disagree. Right? But we don't. You see, I'm past agree to disagree. We don't want to. We don't need to go there. So if somebody in the media starts questioning in that line of direction, so you just say shut it down and say no. Look, enough's enough. If they say whose fault is it? Is Mr. Zelensky? Do you think Putin? Or Mr. Putin? Do you think Zelensky? You just say enough's enough. Enough's enough. We're gonna, that's not something we're focused on. We're focused on forward movement. We're focused on peace. Right. Well, because you have to understand something. When Gorbachev and Reagan entered into those agreements, and again, there was a loss somewhere along the line where we lost our focus, and I brought that up many times. There's a lot of dead people, spies and people that were spying, had been killed, had been harmed. So the people in the CIA hated KGB, KGB hated CIA, right? And they were able to look past that. And I think we're at that moment again. Agreed, sir. Because there's no other way. You're just not going to get anywhere trying to blame it on somebody. I don't know what Putin wants to do. I can't tell you. I don't know if he wants those. Does he really want those regions, or is he going to accept something less? Well, as far as NATO, again, if you're going to put him into NATO, you put him into NATO in 2014. You don't still have a lingering question at 2022, right? You just ask for trouble with that. Thank you, Larry. I mean, like I told you, my decisions in 2012 and 2014 are not based upon occurrences in 2022 or 2021, right? 100%. It's a whole different world. Again, even how much they killed my life. So again, the reality of the world had changed, of the entire world. So I think that that's a good phrase. Enough is enough. And that's what we focus on. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.